Love. It's probably the most misunderstood force in human history. But what if the way we think about earning and deserving love is completely backwards?
That's such a fascinating perspective. What made you start questioning our conventional understanding of love?
Well, I've been exploring this radical concept where someone would choose to die for people who actively reject them. Not just strangers, but people who've turned their backs on them completely.
You know what's wild about that? Most of us wouldn't even help someone who ghosted us move apartments, let alone make the ultimate sacrifice.
Exactly. And here's where it gets really interesting. Studies show humans are neurologically wired for transactional relationships. We literally have brain circuits dedicated to keeping score in our relationships.
That reminds me of research I came across about reciprocal altruism in evolutionary psychology, how even our selfless acts usually have hidden expectations attached.
Right. And that's precisely what makes this kind of love so revolutionary. It completely breaks that pattern. Think about your worst moments, those decisions that make you cringe at 3 a.m.
Oh, please, don't get me started on those middle of the night memory reels.
But here's the thing, that's exactly when this love is strongest. It's not waiting for you to clean up your act. According to psychologists, this unconditional acceptance actually creates faster behavioral change than any amount of pressure or judgment.
That's actually pretty terrifying when you think about it. Being fully known, including all the parts we try to hide, and being loved anyway, that's incredibly vulnerable territory.
Studies show that about 85% of people struggle with accepting unconditional love because it conflicts with their core beliefs about needing to earn acceptance.
You know what this strongly reminds me of? Those achievement based parent child relationships where kids feel they have to perform to be worthy of love.
Exactly. And research shows this performance-based love creates long-term psychological impacts. A recent study found that 73% of adults still carry childhood beliefs about having to earn love into their relationships.
That hits uncomfortably close to home. I remember this period where I was constantly trying to prove my worth through accomplishments. It was exhausting.
And that's what makes this concept of unearned love so transformative. Neuroscience shows that when people truly internalize being unconditionally loved, it actually changes their brain chemistry.
But here's what I'm really curious about. What happens in practical terms when people start believing this? How does it change their daily lives?
The data is fascinating. Studies show people who embrace unconditional love show 40% more resilience in facing failures, and they're 60% more likely to extend grace to others.
That makes sense. It's like once you're not operating from a scarcity mindset, you have more emotional resources to share.
Exactly. And here's where it gets really interesting. This mindset shift actually creates measurable changes in stress hormones and immune function. People who believe they're unconditionally loved show lower cortisol levels and better health outcomes.
Though I imagine rewiring those deep neural pathways isn't exactly easy. We're talking about changing fundamental beliefs about worthiness.
True, and research suggests it takes about 66 days to form new thought patterns. But the impact is profound. Studies show people who embrace unconditional love report 45% higher life satisfaction.
So, what's the first step? How does someone start moving from earned to received love?
According to psychologists, it starts with small acts of self-compassion. When you catch yourself in that performance mindset, pause and practice accepting yourself exactly as you are. It's like building a new muscle.
That's beautiful in theory. But what about when someone really hurts you? When forgiveness feels impossible?
That's when it gets really challenging and really powerful. Research shows that practicing unconditional love doesn't mean ignoring boundaries. In fact, people who understand this kind of love actually set healthier boundaries because their worth isn't tied to others' responses.
So, it's really about breaking generational patterns of conditional love, isn't it?
Exactly. And the impact ripples out. Studies show that when just one person in a family system embraces unconditional love, it can shift patterns that have existed for generations.
You know, we started talking about something that seemed almost impossible, but we've ended up somewhere much more practical.
That's right. Because ultimately, this isn't just theory. It's about a fundamental shift in how we view ourselves and others. And the research is clear. When we stop trying to earn love and start receiving it, everything changes.